Welcome to this tutorial on using Final Cut Pro X in recreating the Brady Bunch opening. So we're looking to start very specifically with a line crossing the screen from left to right, and then it opens up as soon as it hits and changes into this video, and then kind of stops moving for a little while. So first let's get some files going here. I'm going to hide this. And I'm going to use Final Cut Pro, and we're going to locate the library. This is an external drive that I have connected to the machine. Okay, so at this point we're going to make a new event, and today's date, Brady Bunch. No, it's in my library. I'm still going to name the event with my last name. We'll also create a new project. It's a nice little feature. So, and here it is. Hide my scopes, and here's my untitled project. So 12, 3, 14, Brady Bunch, Stone, and here's my timeline. Let's import some files, Command-I. We already have this shot, so we'll use the first period class. I'm going to Command-A, select all. Is that first period? Yeah. And import all. So these are going to import into this event, and for this I'm going to leave files in place rather than copying to the library. As long as they're on the external hard drive, I don't need a duplicate of them. Copy to library is useful when you have an SD card, and I think I'm just going to leave it so that the media is not optimized, and everything is going to remain the same. So import. Okay, so all my stuff is importing. Here's all my headshot bus shots. I'm going to drag this over a little bit, get a couple more in view. And I'm going to start with the lovely lady. So Olivia, it's 20 seconds, 13 seconds, it's 8 seconds. So I guess these were done in 3 separate files, and we're going to grab this first one, and I'm going to select it and then E, append edit down to the timeline. And now that it's on the timeline, we need to get it to go as a white line from outside of the edge left to right. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete audio. If you control click and detach audio, and then select the audio and delete, and we don't have to worry about that. I should be bringing in the audio file. I do not have it handy on this drive with me at the moment, so I'm just going to be kind of focusing on just the basics of keyframing, and then later we can work on timing it with music. So we want it to look like a square. I'm going to select the clip, and I'm going to go into the transform. If it's not shown on your browser in the inspector, here's where you can bring the inspector up or down, and let's get a key command for that. So if I hover over that, that's Command 4, brings up the inspector, and then in the transform we're going to show, and now we can see, nope, sorry, it's the crop. We're going to see the left and right cropping. So left and right, we'll make them even, so it's a box. 400 pixels, something like that maybe. So these are different numbers because she may be not perfectly centered in the screen. Let's go with 400 and see what that looks like, a nice even number. And that looks about like a square. And I'm going to scale it down. So again, select the clip, make sure it's selected, and we're going to scale down. I'm going to go back and look at the video to see kind of the scale within my box. We'll scale down even less than that. Let's try 60, maybe 50. I'm going to drag this over so I can get a little bit more real estate on my screen here. So here I'm just arranging the size. Let's go with 50. Okay, so this doesn't move. All I've done is left and right cropped and made it a box on the screen at a smaller scale. Okay, now at this point we want it to move from screen left to screen right in a line. So let's make the line first. Actually, let's think about this for a second. With this keyframing, the basic gist of it is making effects happen in time. And you got to think about like when the effects are going to happen. So eventually this is going to come over and open up to a box. So since I've made the box, I want to kind of save these parameters in time. So later in time is when this box is fully open. So let's go like around here, and we're with the time bar, and then we're going to go into our transform section, and I'm going to change the X position. I can click and drag it up, or I could go over here and I could click this transform button, and now I have the ability to just drag it on the screen. So I'm going to do it right about there. We're going to keep the traditional 4:3 aspect ratio, where it's like kind of like black bars and left and right. You'll see on the video here, if we bring up the lovely ladies, it's got the black space here and the black space here. We're going to use the exact same spacing. So let's go back here and back to Final Cut. And alright, so at this point in time we want it to be open and at this center point. So position, we want it to be at 0 on the y-axis, and let's go with 400 on the nose on the x-axis. So now this thing is at 400 pixels kind of left of center, and we want to make a keyframe at this position. So keyframing is this button, add a keyframe. So we've just made a keyframe in time, and you don't really see it anywhere other than it just kind of highlights orange. You have to bring up the keyframe editor down here. So I'm going to control click, and actually I think it might be double clicking. No. Well, I didn't do a whole lot of research before I started this tutorial, so let's look up how to do a keyframe. Show keyframe. Okay, in the video animation editor, select keyframe, do one of the following. This is adjusting. Let's hide this. Well, that's the inspector where we just were. So yeah, video animation editor. Select the clip in the timeline, choose clip show, and Control V. Okay, so let's go back here. Control V. Nope. Show. I was hitting Command. Control V. Show video animation. There we go. Now we want to look at the transform, and we're looking for our position. So if I click here, I can just show position, and I want to make this larger. How do I do that? Let's go with video only. No. Well, that'll disable it. There we go. No, that's opacity. Okay. Well, we're talking through it. We're going to looks like the only way to expand it is if it's opacity. Solo animation or Control-Shift-V. Let's try this. Go back here, Control-Shift-V. No. Okay, well, let's just see if we can get it to go. So we've made a keyframe in our position, and you can see it here in time. So earlier in time, all the way at the beginning of the video, we wanted to start off of the screen left. So I'm actually going to zoom out. If I click up in this window here and Command minus, zoom out, I can see kind of outside of the screen. And I'm going to drag this over here, and notice we have this red line now, and that yellow line is kind of like a snapping point to the center, so that's useful. But the red line is showing you the path that this is going to travel from one keyframe to the next. So we have a keyframe here, and now we have a keyframe here, and it's going to start all the way off screen. So if I look over here, I like to round things up, so let's go with -1280, enter. And then what's going to happen is from this keyframe to this keyframe, it's going to play across. So that's moving actually really slowly. Keyframing is moving within time, so if we wanted to move this, I should be able to drag it back in time. And we actually want this to happen across only 15 frames. So I'm going to drag the time bar all the way back, and I'm going to right arrow over 15 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, and I'm going to drag my keyframe back to exactly that time spot. So now over 15 frames, if I hit the spacebar, it's going to kind of shoot in. And I want to Shift-C, go back to the scale. So spacebar, shoots in, and then stops. And that actually looks a little fast. So let's go with 20. So I'll go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's 20. Maybe I missed the key once. There's 20. That's actually nice. When you click and drag it, it's telling you which frame it's at. Which is new to this version of Final Cut. Spacebar, 20 frames, it comes over. That looks about the same speed. Play. Okay, so the speed's looking good. Now we just got to make it align. So I'm going to go back into Final Cut. And now that I have my transform position squared away, I'm going to work on the cropping keyframing. So here at this point in time, when it stops is when it's going to begin to open up the cropping. So it's already open. We need to set the crop points to make it look like a line. So that's a top and bottom crop. And if I turn on keyframing for top and adjust this down so it's about there, so let's say, yeah, 493 looks good. And bottom I'm also going to turn on, and that's going to be 493 as well. And let's actually make it 495, 495, enter. Okay, so now we have this line thing going on. So up until this point in time, we should be trim, looks like top and bottom crop is set up in this little drop down arrow. So we're seeing all right now. So up until this point in time, we have it aligned. So it's top and bottom cropped or trimmed until this 20th frame. And you can see these two dots here that's showing me that. Then it happens relatively quickly if we look at the video. There we go. So it kind of shoots open pretty quickly. So let's go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames later. This is going to open up. So because I have turned on keyframing, it's going to remember if I make any changes in the parameter wherever the time bar is. So there is no keyframes here yet, but once I start to move things, you're going to see a keyframe pop up. So we want this to fully open 5 frames later. So now we have a keyframe, 2 keyframes here for top and bottom, 2 keyframes here for top and bottom, later in time where it's going to open up. So if I back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with my arrow, you're going to see that it opens over 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we're going to jump to the top. Spacebar, zooms in, opens up. It's looking pretty good so far. And now at this point we need to make it white up until this point where it starts to open. So to do that, I think we can maybe use a filter and keyframe it. So I'm going to go into filters and maybe like a brightness filter. So video, stylize, looks, light maybe, flashing, intro flashes. I'm not sure this is the one I want. Keying, basics, colorize maybe. Maybe we did just do it with the color corrector. So if I'm going to go and select the clip and make sure I'm in the video section. I'm going to go up to correction. I'm going to go over to here and exposure. I'm not seeing a keyframe selection here. Let me go back. No, it doesn't look like you can keyframe color. So I guess it is going to have to be an effect. Let's go into stylize and see what we got here. Let's see what black and white does. So if I drag this onto the clip and then I look into the effects, black and white amount, where black and white here, I don't know if we can go any higher than 100. Looking for like a one fader, one parameter effect that I can turn on and turn off to make it go from white to color. It used to be, I can't even think of what it was. This doesn't even give you a parameter. So I'm going to delete that. Oops, undo. You have to select just the clip and delete. There we go. And black and white and just delete. And I'm still trying to figure out how to turn it white. Well, at this point I'd probably go and play for a little while until I figured it out. So I guess what I'm going to do is stop the tutorial here and give this to you guys and see if you can figure out how to make it white, how to make the video layer completely white, and then fade from white with just one compositing parameter. So, you know, if you find that, you're the first one to find it. You'll help out the rest of the class. But hopefully you picked up a couple of things to show the keyframing, where it's under the clip menu, show video animation, and now you're going to see the dots that you're making. And to turn keyframing on, you go over to the layer where you select the clip and you go over to the inspector, and whatever parameter that you need to change, for this instance it was the position parameter and top and bottom cropping parameters that are changing, and it's scaled down to 50, but that doesn't change in this first section here. It always stays at this scale. So we did play with some parameters here, but to turn keyframing on, you click this button and it adds a keyframe wherever the time bar is. And once it is turned on, if you move the time bar and then change the parameter, it'll make a new keyframe in that position. And that's going to do it for this tutorial.